This is the ALASKAST. I'm Austin Manoic.
And I'm Landon Albertson.
Just a couple average bros trying to be above average, trying to fill that freezer and make a little less wall space.
But in the end, it's all about the adventure.
This episode is brought to you by Providence Imaging Center.
Your number one choice for diagnostic imaging.
Man, it's sub-zero out there, and I'll tell you what, the cold really brings an awareness to old injuries that I had from playing sports growing up. So Providence Imaging Center has really brought some clarity to some of these old injuries that I've felt, and apparently I'm not just banged up. But hey, I'll live, and that's why we're in Alaska. This is ALASKAST. We're in Wasilla, Alaska with Vince.
I'm Landon.
I'm Austin.
I'm Vince.
And we're just a couple of average bros trying to be above average.
That's our saying.
So I've been talking about Vince, like number one person, like my OG hero in Alaska who taught me a lot, showed me around the state. I'm still taking notes, is Vince. So Vince is obviously like numero uno in my book. And we've done a lot of fun stuff together.
We have. It's been a good run. Hope for many more moons.
Many more moons. I saw this last time with him. I looked at him. It's like, just stop. I looked at him like,
yeah.
Vince, you amaze me.
Yeah.
You are 60 years old.
Yep.
I'm feeling sore up here, and you're out leading the pack, like leading us, packing off a buck off the mountain. I'm like, I love you, man.
Love you too.
We got this. This is good, man.
Yeah.
So I married his daughter. I started next door in the other lot when
just friends, of course.
We're just friends. And
yes, Dad, we're just friends.
Just friends.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's the first thing. Like, you got, young buck, you got a target back here, and he's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
What do Joe Cool? Like, what do you shoot it with? These bows.
Yeah.
Which ones? So he pulls one out. I'm like, you couldn't hit that dime. He's got one of those like old yellow Stinger targets, and it's just got a bunch of little dimes. Like, there's no way you can hit that with that bow. Doesn't say anything. He just walks out. One shot, zaps this thing hard. I'm like, oh. Oh yeah, we're still friends. We're just friends.
Yeah.
First thing.
Yeah. Trad archery is, love affair, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is.
I was, before we started all this, Austin was teaching his son Keeper how to shoot, with his recurve, and it was just so cute to watch his face, the element of surprise, the arrow launching and the beauty of flight, and I think that's what is most mesmerizing, is the flight of the arrow.
Yeah, that's what I love about trad is you're able to see the arrow fly.
Exactly. And you really are, compared to, mechanical bow. I mean, it's an amazing piece of equipment, but it's just so fast you don't even see it. Where with a trad bow, you watch that flight and you're like, you're just glued in, you're locked in, and it's magic. Has been for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've been committed. Like, I've been kind of like, I guess you could say I'm like bow curious, weapon curious. About the only thing I haven't killed anything with is a spear.
Right.
But, muzzleloader rifle,
Yeah.
compound, trad bow, longbow, primitive bow. You taught me.
Yeah.
Hey, young man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna help you burn off some of this angst. Here's an Osage stave. Here's a draw knife.
Yeah. Get busy.
Yeah. And you had your Strunk bow.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Which, you're from Oregon. John Strunk, he's a famous self-bow boyer, and he's out of Tillamook, Oregon. And really, he's considered one of the best, not only in the United States, but the world as far as a self-bow builder. And his expertise is the Osage flat bow, which is an Indian-style bow. And it's beautiful. That was my first bow that I bought, as an adult when I moved to Alaska, was a Strunk 72-pound self bow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dive too far forward, and that's what I have a habit of doing, and just going deep, real quick into rabbit holes. So we're going to come back to the Strunk bow, and you getting jiggy with it in the swamp. I remember you with the Indian.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's rewind and talk about. This is all about Alaska. I mean, I was born here,
Yep.
just by chance, right? I mean, thank you, God. Thank you, parents.
It all worked out. The stars aligned, and boom,
I'm here.
here you are. Yep.
And you guys came up, and he just came up a couple years ago.
Sure.
But what happened with you? You came
Yep.
from Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit City, Michigan. It's weird how, before this started, you asked, and we kind of exchanged, our backgrounds a little bit. And just as a kid, I just always remember being fascinated with Alaska. Geography class, you open the book, there's Alaska off to the lower left of the United States, like all maps show Alaska down left next to Hawaii, of course,
It's gotta be warm there.
and, just the whole, mystique and the allure of Alaska, even as a youngster in 5th grade, it just something about it. It just like, I want to go there, And so a college friend of mine who was a high school buddy, we grew up together. Our sophomore year in college, we said, you know what, let's go to Alaska. Let's hitchhike, we'll fly in, we'll hitchhike around. We'll work several jobs in the summer to make enough money for school and for our trip. So we kind of double dipped on jobs and then flew up. And that was in 78. We did that, and we had a ball. I mean, we flew into Anchorage, we hitchhiked down to Kenai, to Homer, then back up to Fairbanks, and then hitchhiked to Skagway, and then took the marine ferry from Skagway down to Juneau, and then flew back to Michigan. That was kind of our loop that we did, We just hitchhiked around, with a backpack, and spent a month doing that. And then literally as soon as I got back, went into college the next year, I said, I'm going back. That's happening.
So you just camping and stuff along the way, or just
while we were hitchhiking around, we just had our backpacks and tents and did all the just hike this, that, and the rest, and kind of whatever serendipitously whatever came our way, we had fun doing on that initial trip. It was a good time. But
you were born in 59.
Yeah.
The
Same year Alaska became state.
It's fate.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Alaska got not only a good one, but as far as I'm concerned, the best one.
Well, thank you.
And what is your rule when you become an Alaskan? When do you truly become an Alaskan?
Yeah. In my mind, when you be like for yourself, when you live here longer than you've lived anywhere else, then you're an Alaskan.
I got some time to put in.
Yeah. But you know what? This place starts growing hair on you, and before you know it, you have children, they're going to be here in Alaska now. I mean, are they Alaskans? Are they born and raised now?
No, they still got a couple of years too. Well, my youngest, he's.
Well, were they born in Alaska?
No.
Oh, okay. But yeah, they'll become a true Alaskan here before you. Yeah.
That's awesome. Just I don't know. Over the years, I've adopted a lot of Vince's teachings, and he's kind of like, "Come with me, young Padawan." So he had the ability to shift and shape this young man growing up. Just a young punk, and eventually I marry his daughter, and like we've got an absolute best friendship, which is awesome.
Which is special.
It's very special.
I treasure it, definitely.
Absolutely. And doing all the hunts and everything we've done, and all the stories, and man, we've gotten.
I think
together.
what's funny, this year, which struck me, we went on our Yukon riverboat trip this year, moose hunting, and I was telling a story, about a Yukon moose trip, and so we had our own, stories to tell, because anytime you go on a big epic adventure like that, you're going to have a story. And now you're like, well, now we have our own story to tell. You and your younger friends, and I'm like, exactly. That's really what it's about. That's what the beauty of hunting is that relationship, that friendship, that bond, that experience that you have when you get out there, especially in Alaska, when you're really out there in the boondocks, in the wilderness. Nothing's easy, and you got to MacGyver stuff, and you got to rely on each other, and that's where it becomes special.
Oh yeah, you're like all state. You're like Pro Bowl MacGyver. Where I'm like, If I had one get out of jail free card, I'm like, Vince, InReach, Vince, what do I? Okay,
Yeah.
I got this. You know, like there's so that he's like my one call up the chain where I call. If I can't get him, I'm like, okay, I better just go ahead and put my head between my knees and kiss my ass goodbye. Like that type of situation. Because I mean, he's self
Yeah.
rescue. He's a king self rescue. Like right, you're in
Well,
Alaska.
there's nobody else there. You got to do with it.
Well, you can call the troopers, but like
Right.
you can call Coast Guard
Yeah.
now. Like
That's last resort there,
yeah, that's really life or death. I feel
you
a
know.
lot of people calling that way too
And,
quick.
that really wasn't an option back in the day because you didn't have, the sat bones and the inReach and things of that nature. When you went out, it was relying on what you had
Yep.
and the people that you're with. And again, that's what makes hunting special is that you are truly relying on, the people that you're with. And that's what makes it, special.
So now, kind of where I'm going with this is Alaska. When you came up,
Yep.
and I want to continue on how you got your job, your
Right.
slope job, and you're like, get out of here. And you're like, no,
Right.
I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Like how Alaska has changed. Like when you came up, Alaska, the Wild West, when it came in the state in '59, then you came up like, whoa, this is still a wild place. I'm coming back. Now you're pioneering stuff. You're doing stuff people have never done. You've
Yeah.
gone to places where maybe people have done, but they're probably in a moose hide canoe,
Yeah.
and you're still doing it your take. You killed someone with a rifle and you went to the tradbow and just stuck in your ways. You're like a Renaissance man,
Yeah.
which is like now you do backcountry snow machining. There's so much that I can unpack from all of this, but where I really want to go is where after that summer and you came back in 8th grade, you wanted to come here. Then
Yep.
you went to college. Then you're like, yeah, I'm going back. I want to get
Yep.
back to that. And then your story from there, and then kind of like where you went on these
Yep.
rivers. How'd you get into the river boating? How did you get
Yeah.
into the snow machining? Kind of like doing all this stuff. And I still tell my friends today, like the other day, make Marcus Baker, like I'm gonna top Marcus Baker. Here's the photos. You're taking photos with your iPhone.
Right.
Back before I look at the
Yeah.
pictures on your old wall in the old house, and you've got
Yeah.
pictures of you up
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. I'm like, where is that? You're like, oh, that's on the Buskin Glacier. And I'm like,
Right.
where is that? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've been there, done that, and been around the state more than anybody that I know, and it's not been from a super cub or helicopter.
No.
Like you have done stuff. It's like, how did you get there?
When you look at your alternate Bible, the Alaska Gazette,
Yeah.
that's where the birth of it is looking at those maps and saying, I want to go there, and then okay, well, how do we get there and how do we get back? And as you know, I don't like to double back. I like to, let's do a loop. Who wants to go there and then come back? We're going to go there and then have another adventure getting back to the truck. That's where the magic is the loop rather than the double back, right? But condensed story of how I got here, it's a little bit interesting. Some of my friends on the slope have heard it, but so I knew I was going to come to Alaska. And back in the day, before all these cell phones, anywhere in the United States, if you dialed 555-1212, that was 907, which is the area code, 555-1212 is information. So if you lived in Oregon, you'd use, the Oregon area code 555-1212. That's information. So I call up, I'm in Michigan, last year college, 907-555-1212. The operator in Anchorage answers, yep, hello, information. I said, yeah, I'm a young man living in Michigan, want to come to Alaska. Do you know anybody that takes strays on? Because I'll do work around the house, yada, yada, yada. And the gal, she hangs up. I'm like, well, okay, let's give it another try. 907-555-1212 and ask again, round 2. She says, yeah, no, I don't know anybody. Click, hangs up. So, well, third time's the charm. So 907-555-1212. Actually, yeah, I have an uncle who homesteaded in Clam Gulch. He's now wintering in Florida. Here's his number. Give him a call. So I call up this guy, Laura and Reggie Hendricks, who homesteaded, back in the 40s and 50s out of Clam Gulch. And he says, oh, yeah, I got a little old, 8x10, 1950s whole trailer you can live in when you coming up. I said, well, planning on coming up May 11th, 1979. He goes, well, okay, we're not going to be there for a couple of weeks, but you can use this trailer. Here's the name of the postmaster in Clam Gulch. I'll let them know you're coming, so they'll show you the place to live. That way, nobody shoots you trying to get into the 8x10 trailer. So that was my home base. Flew into Anchorage. I had $50, a backpack, and that was it. I knew I was going to go to Clam Gulch, and that was going to be home base. So the adventure began then. And what's cool about Alaska is I remember I was walking down, flew in International Airport, walking down the ramp. The very first truck that drove by, stuck my thumb out. They picked me up. I said, where are you going? Well, I'm going to Clam Gulch. He says, well, I'm not going down there, but what's your plan today? I'm like, well, I need to camp somewhere, and I got out my book and, oh yeah, Centennial Park, blah, blah, blah. Because, well, that's out of the way, but I'll drop you off there. No problem. So he drives me to this campground, which is still there today, Centennial Park, kind of like Bartlett High School, near there across the highway. He drops me off. I'm to get my backpack, setting up my tent, and about 20 minutes later, he comes back with a 6-pack of beer and says, hey, welcome to Alaska. And I'm like, this is the place I want to be. That sealed the deal right there. Alaska. And what makes Alaska amazing is Alaskans.
The Alaskan way.
Yeah. So it's been that way ever since, Got down to Clam Gulch and had all sorts of awesome people. This old timer, Ray Lafreniere, taught me how to fillet fish, how to smoke fish, how to set net fish, beach site, and how to smoke fish, can fish, kipper fish, make squaw candy. He basically started, my parents, did some of that stuff, but not to the Alaska style at all,
Whole nother level.
Yeah, this guy, he was a bachelor. They called him One-Eyed Ray. He had a black patch, pirate patch. He came to Alaska in the 30s, and he was famous down on the Kenai Peninsula for his smoked salmon and being like a bartender from one place to the next and helping them build and establish, the place. So
salty.
Yeah, he was definitely salty.
So did he put you on to the Clam Jam?
No.
It was at the Clam Jam was the bar there, right?
The clamshell.
Oh, the clam. Okay.
Well, yes, he that's where I met him, was because the clamshell was actually my phone. Where my parents anyone who wanted to get a hold of me would call the clamshell, because that was the phone in town.
And so Vince, this is a handsome man. He's in his 20s. This is an original man dime. People are coming down to the clamshell, right? Like, you got to come check this guy. Get a drink from this young buck over here, right? I'm imagining it. I'm going in, but you should see the pictures of Vince and this hair that he's got.
It's almost to the not quite. You're not quite right? The flow that I had going, but
you had some hair. Some hair. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So you did halibut. I remember that you telling me you did some long lining.
Yeah.
Commercial fishing.
Yeah, I did that for a little bit. I dug clams, for
razors.
Razor clams. I went across the inlet and dug clams for a bit. I did odd jobs, then all along I knew that I had heard through the grapevine, the North Slope. That's kind of ultimately where I wanted to get, and then ended up really, quite frankly, that first winter, I had 97 cents left to my name and hitchhiked to the North Slope to get my job.
Got your Arctic gear, right? You got it geared up.
Yeah, I had the Arctic gear before I even came to Alaska. That's a whole nother story there. That the Alaska Pipeline Service Company gear that Eddie Bauer had made, for Alaska.
Is it still up here?
Yeah, that's at the cabin, actually.
Oh,
the green parka with the wolf ruff.
The one that you have in case somebody has a survival situation.
Correct. Yeah.
Don't
big
hurt
green.
the cabin.
Big green.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the gear I came up with. I bought that before I came up, in prep for just my Alaska adventure, and I had that on that trip north, to the slope. And that's a whole nother podcast, quite frankly, right there. That whole adventure leaving Clam Gulch and hitchhiking up north and ended up in Fairbanks. And
Jesus saves.
yes, Jesus saves, which Jesus does save. But I ended up spending the night at the homeless shelter, with all the other locals there. And the next morning, listened to the preacher, had my pancake breakfast, and got up to Hilltop Cafe, which is right there, north of town when the haul road starts. All the truckers still stop at the Hilltop Cafe to have their pie and their breakfast and fuel up, on their way to the slope to take their rigs up north. But that was my start. Was there at the Hilltop Cafe going north, and then ended up then getting a job. So then, and consequently, prior to that, I had just previously met Sammy,
Oh yeah.
Prior to going up there. And that was the beauty of her, is that, she loved me for who I was, had 97 cents left to my name. I didn't have anything to offer. She had her own condo, her own car. I'm hitchhiking around still.
On your way through from Kenai to the valley, right? You're in
Yes.
the valley, the cars.
Right.
Was it cars back then? Cars?
Well, no, yeah, cars. Car Gottstein. That was in
Gottstein,
Anchorage.
okay.
She lived in Anchorage, though.
Oh.
The Car Gottstein.
Picking
She
up the
worked for
Anchorage.
the Gottstein family as an executive secretary there, and I ended up meeting her through this other guy, and they said, well, go see a gal named Sammy, and she'll line you out. And so 40 years later, she's still lining me out.
Yeah, so they married up.
Yeah.
What's up?
So there you
Hey!
go. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both married up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Exactly.
God. Thank God Jesus saves.
Yes.
He saves.
He does. Yes,
It's
he
awesome.
does.
Like fate has an awesome way of working out.
Yep.
So you made your
Yep.
your bones up there. You went
Yep.
up, got a job on the North Slope.
Yep.
After they were like, go on, get, and you were breaking into a shack here or there because it's Arctic,
Yep.
now.
Yep.
This is fall, and you're like, I got nothing left. There ain't no choice.
Yep.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, I mean, I actually went up in December is when I went north. So I ended up. Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's a whole nother story there. That adventure was interesting. I ended up sleeping in a cat train, a cold cat train, which is a series of Atco trailers that are basically mobile homes on skis that are connected together like a train pulled by a D9 cat out in the tundra. And back in the day, they would pull these cat trains, and that's when they would do the geophysical work and run charges into the ground in order to look seismic. They would do seismic work looking for oil pockets, right? So I ended up getting kicked out of several camps, and then found this empty ice box out of the wind camp.
saved your
Parked
life.
to the sea. It did. So I opened up this door, climbed up in. It was like 6 feet off the ground. I had to do a front flip into the darn thing, and there was a bunk here and a bunk there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. I'm going to put on my Alaska Pipeline Service Company welding gear and crash out inside this little, mobile home on skis. And that's how I got my first job. I kind of stumbled out of that trailer, and the welders were there working on it the next morning. And they said, what are you doing in there? Like, well, I'm hitchhiked up looking for work. And yeah, I bunked out in here last night. He said, well, anyone crazy enough to do that, the hell with it. You're looking for work. You're working for me today. So you got a job. Here's a grinder. Start grinding on these welds, kid. So that's kind of how I got my start, was working for a company called Udelhoven Oilfield System Services, which is still in operation today. Jim Udelhoven is the owner, who lives down in Kenai. As a matter of fact, he's still around.
Oh,
So
That is so badass. Just
Yeah.
the amount of the fuzz on your peaches to
Yeah.
do that. Like today, ain't
Yeah.
nobody doing that.
No, not many.
No, I
Yeah.
don't know how. Well, yeah, I don't know many.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are even keeping their jobs. Up there. I know
Yeah.
there is a long road of individuals who've been up there, and
Yes, there is.
but as far as like young bucks trying to go up there and make it that way, I don't know anybody who's doing that for
Yeah.
sure.
That's a different world, but still,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man, the fuzz on the peaches. Goodness gracious, man, the grit in the saddle there. All right, so you got your
So
job.
so there I am. I'm working, but the one thing, kind of moving back to Michigan, I think is interesting for you is, that's the home of Fred Bear. Grayling, Michigan. He started out in Detroit actually doing leather products, Bear Archery. And when I grew up, so I grew up, born in 59. So like in 69, I'm 10 years old. Everywhere all over metropolitan Detroit area, you had archery ranges, public archery ranges outside. In any park, there were hail butts with, 20, 30, 40, 50-yard range archery ranges in public parks, right? So bear archery was predominant. Ben Pearson archery also. You went into any store, any outdoor store, Montgomery Ward, Sears, little mom and pop archery stores. You'd have the bear bows hanging on the racks. And I just remember being mesmerized by those recurves and longbows, the different woods and the color. And in fact, the bow that all of my kids and my grandchildren have learned to shoot on is that Ben Pearson
Collegian.
Longbow, basically, And so I was 12, and we couldn't afford the bear bow because there were more money. That's the bow I wanted was, a bear recurve. But what about this Ben Pearson bow? Not knocking Ben Pearson, but the bear bows were just a little bit more expensive back in the day. And so that was my bow, and I just, started that. I did not grow up hunting. My father wasn't a hunter. He was an outdoorsman, camping, things of that nature. But I didn't grow up in a hunting family, But I got that bow, and of course, like any kid, you're shooting birds and squirrels and this and that. And I'd bring them home, and my dad would say, "Well, okay, yeah, you shot that squirrel. That nice shot, but what are you going to do with it?" So there we are with our kitchen knife, butchering this squirrel, and you're going to eat that squirrel because you killed it. So even though he wasn't a hunter, he instilled in that whole thing of the respect for the animal at a young age, which was cool.
Did you guys do much camping and fishing?
Oh yeah, we did. Good. My dad was a fisherman. He was a fly fishing expert, actually, and yeah, we fished a lot, all the different lakes, all over the Great Lakes. They call them Chinooks. We went king fishing in October. Every year we would do that and spend a week doing, the Chinook fishing with his fly pole, up in northern Michigan, river fishing, and drifting for, flies with kings. It was fun. And, a big one there would be 30 pounds would be a huge one. But, that's a beautiful fish to catch on a fly.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, for
still
kings,
is.
Yeah, still is king
still
for our
is.
rivers with the king crisis. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive in.
Yep.
So you've had the outdoors, right? That's been a staple in your life growing up. That's you're interested, drawn to the bow, not necessarily the rifle. Your family weren't necessarily like rifle hunters and going out and like, hey, did you get your buck? Hey, did you get your buck? But that was happening back then, But you were hardcore.
Yeah.
Like basically not inner city, but suburbs. Where exactly were you?
Well, we actually grew up in Detroit initially, and then we moved to the suburbs.
Okay.
Later on. Yep.
And I mean that's a whole nother ball of worms as well.
Yeah.
All right, but in Alaska, you went up, you got your job. What happened when you finally came back and you're like, "Hey, Sammy, I got moneyed up. Right?
Yeah,
you got some money finally. You're
then we,
some money.
we got married, and our first place we lived in was Talkeetna, right? So And it's just interesting how we ended up, we had never been there before. We actually, with, with the history I had down in the Kenai, we looked at a beautiful log home down on Kenai on Coho Loop Road. And it was a beautiful log home with the view of Redoubt, and right on the bluff. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I actually wanted to buy that place. It was 10 acres on the bluff, Redoubt right there. And it was kind of my home base, Clam Gulch, so I knew it pretty well. Tustamina Lake and hiking around Tustamina, was another adventure I did in the winter. Walked all the way around Tustamina in March, on foot and snowshoes.
That lake is no joke.
Yeah, it's a big lake,
Yes, sir.
But so it was too much money. We couldn't afford that place, so we just kept going north, and then we ended up in Talkeetna, and we spent 15 years. We raised our kids there before we moved back down to Wasilla to have more opportunity for them, because in Talkeetna, if you wanted them to play Little League ball, well, you were the Little League coach, and you started, well, let's build an association. You want them to play hockey? Well, let's start an association. You
got to build a rink.
You got to build a rink. It was just, you want them swimming lessons, well, you got to come down to Wasilla to go swimming, So it ended up that after 15 years, we moved back down here to Wasilla, but our heart's always been in Talkeetna, will still be. But that's where, you asked earlier, how did you, learn the rivers? And that was it. The hunting and the river running, because I've always had this affinity for boats. I love boats, and Michigan has a few rivers that you canoe on, and I did quite a bit of canoeing as a kid with my parents, but these rivers in Alaska are unlike any other state in the United States. Other than Idaho, which those are amazing whitewater, big water rivers there, but they're all dammed up rivers and they're fake, as far as I'm concerned. They're all dammed up. They know what the water flows are. And yeah, they run those big inboards in that heavy white water. But okay, you have a 150-mile stretch of river, and that's what they run every time. In Alaska, it's unlimited.
And these rivers are changing in the channel, teaching me.
Yeah, they change hour to hour, year to year, day to day,
week to week.
Yeah,
literally, it's just different. You have to.
You're navigating. You're not driving a boat. You're navigating a boat.
And when you were teaching me, I'm like, well, why don't you teach me? She's like, well, I'm focused, and it was years, and I didn't get that until I got my own boat. And I'm like, holy hammer down! Like, oh my God, I'm dangling. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where you're just while you're running the river where you're like, okay, well, let's talk about this.
Take the helm. No.
Right. Yeah. No.
And it's I don't know. Obviously now we spend some time up there. There's not very much hunting there.
Right.
Some people, usually you'll see something on the river in October when you're rainbow fishing or something like that. But as far as the moose hunting, it's not prolific.
It really isn't, not in South Central. Yes, there's game, moose hunt, and black bear on the Susitna drainage. And I call the Susitna drainage from basically Talkeetna all the way down to Cook Inlet.
Right, but
all the rivers that dump into the Big Sioux. I've run virtually every one of them.
And it's all, a lot of it is peanut butter. You're talking about peanut butter. There's no way to get a vantage point, really, unless you climb
It's
trees
river
and
running.
whatnot. But, and going down, you can go down. There's several rivers off, and you can get out. And, you're looking at the gazetteer. Oh, this looks like a swamp. Like, you can find some stuff. But as far as like, I'm going to run the river and try to get a moose right on the river.
It's not easy.
No.
No, it really isn't.
No.
It can be done. There's moose there, and I've shot, my fair share of them over the years. But, it's the term, you're a swamp lord. You're going to get out and you're going to bushwhack and you're going to get whacked in the face.
Climb trees.
You're going to climb trees. You're going to overlook swamps and
do that for 10 days.
You're going to earn your moose.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You're going to earn your moose. Where 4 of us go hunting, we all 4 get moose. That's rare.
Oh, yeah.
Big time. For river hunting, where you don't have the airplane advantage.
Right.
Where you're trying to locate, moose and find them on your own accord. it's tough,
Yeah.
but that's what makes it fun.
It's
You
just,
know?
and South Central is different from the different places. Alaska's so huge. We're talking about a pocket where
Yep.
this is where you cut your teeth, and
Yes.
this is where I finally got my boat. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like let's go out. We'll
Yeah.
go in your boat. Okay, is it
Yeah.
powered right? Okay, you weren't like,
Yeah.
you advised me. Okay, you can get there, but you're gonna barely get there in that. Now
Right.
we're like, okay, repower.
Yes.
Taught me a lot, right? But
Yeah.
as far as when it was like, hey, try that out on a lake first. Man, I would
Yes.
have taken that. I would have taken that. I've been swimming for my life on the Susitna River.
Yeah, you would have.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that first boat that you bought was,
The
you're like,
pencil.
yeah, this is it. I'm taking my daughter in this. No, you're not.
You
You
got
can go by yourself, but she isn't getting in that boat.
like,
Yeah.
we'll be fine. You're like,
Yeah.
I get out on the Kinnick River. I'm like, we'll just try the Kinnick. And like, 5 minutes in the river, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like this is not the boat. George's like, this is great. We're watching Fred and Fur. We've got our two
Right.
dogs. We're barely on step. I'm like, this is the end of me. This is the
Yeah.
end of us. We will die in this thing.
What did you have? What kind of boat was it?
It was a Montgomery Seaward that we welded up, like brought the transom up,
12-inch high sides,
skinny,
narrow,
48-inch,
36
16.
inch,
Yeah.
wide.
It was something else. Like, just don't cough, don't blink, don't shift your weight. We're gonna go on step now. I'm like, no, this is not it.
Yeah.
Little 16-foot Lund, and it was fine for just me and my wife, and we ran Susitna down to what's that next river down there you catch kings and Deshka. Yeah, ran down to Deshka a couple times, but as soon as we get a couple more people in there, put the boys in there, is like, not the right boat.
Yeah, you displace the fuel, you're replaced with king salmon, and you're going against the current going back up. You're like, all right, lean forward. You're rocking. Yeah. So Alaska rivers. All right. So airplanes, like I saw, Jesus Saves. I don't belong in an airplane that's like, I don't think I'd make it, and that's as far as just pilots. Yeah, you're amazing. I get it. You operate on a different level. Cool.
Yeah.
But for me,
Very
that's
appreciative.
very appreciative. But
I just know that if I love airplanes. I mean, when you go on a plane, what you can see in short order is mind blowing. Actually, you can live up here and hunt with a 4-wheeler, hike, do boating, and spend 30 years doing it. And you can get in an airplane and in an afternoon see more country than you've ever seen collectively in all your years, without a doubt.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
We went our first fly out caribou hunt, and as soon as we were up there and you could just see so much, I was like, this is the life.
It really is. And I mean, and with me, thank goodness I am a risk taker by nature, and I recognize that. And I knew as a young man that I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. And I know that for a fact if I had a plane. I'm just now really able to go, okay, yeah, maybe I should get a plane and start flying.
Yeah.
You feel like you would push the limits a little too much.
I would.
Oh,
I would have.
100%.
I mean, for and especially with the job that I had where I had to get home and go back, now I got to fly and make this date to get on a plane to go to the North Slope. You have all these outside influences, working on you. I got to get home today. Where a pilot, that's the last way you need to be thinking.
High
You're like,
pressure.
well, can't leave today.
Right.
It may be 3 days before we can get out safely. And so you have that working plus just a risk taking. I just know so many people that I've worked with that aren't here anymore.
So many people in general.
That whether they're a risk taker or not, anything mechanical is subject to failure at any time. If your boat motor quits, you have a fighting chance to swim.
To swim to shore. That's
right.
Yeah.
Your 4-wheeler breaks down. I guess I can walk. It's not going to be fun, but I'll do it. Snow machine, same thing. Your airplane motor breaks down. Guess what? We can't fly.
Right. And then like I've talked to some guys like, oh yeah, I can get that thing down to 30. We'll coast down. I'm like, yeah, but coast down in 30 going into trees. You hit
in a fabric covered airplane.
Yeah.
How's that spruce branch feeling between your face?
So, yes. So that's the whole thing. Right? I had some. I recognize that as well. If I'm
Yeah.
doing anything, I'm going full speed, right?
Right.
And at least in a river or
Yes.
on a four-wheeler,
You got a chance.
I got a chance, right?
Yeah.
Even if I'm being ice cube, if I don't, I'm going to be floating,
Right. You have a chance.
And we've got, we've got another episode lined up on close encounters,
Right.
near death, because
Yes.
that's what Alaska is,
Yep.
But yeah, pilots are awesome, badass. I admire them. I admire you for your knowledge of,
Yeah.
okay, this motor's not starting, and now we're deep. Now, how are we going to get this working,
Right.
right? And in an airplane, it's the same situation, but
It
now
is.
it's like, well, we just broccoli, we landed into the broccoli. Let's repair this thing with duct tape and see if she flies.
Right. You got to MacGyver it.
Which is, it's just, yeah, the level of human being that recreates, and not just, airport to airport, or I'm going to go and take my boat out and go putz around, but like the people who are exploring, going to places in Alaska and coming back, and not just like, if you see the picture, you're like, oh, okay, that's what's up,
Yeah.
And like, I give Vince grief, like there's a reason why I put and sold my long track snow machine and put that into a Honda four-wheeler, because Vince is like, oh, that looks like a really good spot. Let's go there on the snow machine. And in the middle of winter, his big loops are, anywhere from 10 to 200-mile loops up and over different glaciers and coming back. And my joke with Vince, I'm like, he's going to be the Renaissance man. He's going to pop out of a glacier doing a Superman on a long track. 10,000 years from now, they're going to be like, look at his backpack. Look at this. He was a handsome man. He must have had a family. He had a wedding ring, He's got survival gear. Oh, we've heard of these beacons, Like, what is this? Oh, he's got a spear. Is that a spear? No, it's a probe. Why would they use a probe? For avalanches, it's going to be the subject of history,
Hopefully not.
But this is right. Yeah. Hopefully not. Like, all right, Vince, maybe when I raise my kids, like,
right.
I always asked her, like, hey, you think you could rip Denali? And he's like, I think I could. He's like, how about that? Like, one last, like, zippity dude, 80-year-old man rips Denali, a 190 long tracks could do.
That's funny.
Headlines, rips by, buddy boots. Way off tangent on the extreme.
Yeah.
Which that's extreme on
that is
level, right? Where you're slaying giants, you're slaying dragons, right? They call that slaying the POW field, slaying dragons. But this is a hunting podcast. Let's get back to that strunk bow.
Okay.
So you started hunting. I remember you had an experience, right, where you're exploring rivers.
Yep.
You went out, you climbed a tree, 338, boom, boom, you and your buddy.
Yep.
Shot two monsters, right?
Yep. That was the start of it, with the gun.
Yep.
We shot two mid 50-inch bulls, and
I guess not monsters, but nice bulls.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful bulls. 3x3.
I see the pictures, and I'm like, oh yeah,
it was awesome.
Long hair, red long johns, holding the moose rack. Yeah, it's badass.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That first fall, we took the jet boat and lucked out and got into a good spot and. Walked into an opening, climbed a tree, saw the bulls, and of course dumped them in, 4 foot of water. Of course. Why not?
Splash, splash.
Splash, splash.
We got him.
We got him. High five. This is awesome. Now what? Oh, I guess we have to swim to them, strip down, and work for the next 3 days to get them out. Not the smartest thing in the world, but.
Let alone, one moose for two guys, let alone two. But yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a rule. Do not shoot them in the water.
Yeah.
Well,
rule number 1, don't do that.
Or like a mile from.
Oh, yeah.
But against my better judgment, kind of trying to be successful. I don't care.
Again. Against my better. Again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, Vince, just come on. It's a monster across the swamp. He's like, well, why don't we call him? Like, he's not coming. Let's go. It's like, you're against my better judgment.
Exactly. I believe those words were said this year, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
again. Yeah.
Again. Which is funny. Another time.
Yeah.
So you killed a couple moose.
Yeah.
With the rifle, and you're like, well,
Yeah, and then it was at that point, it's like, anyone can shoot a moose with a rifle. You see it, it's done.
Should be.
Should be. Yes.
And if you're tenacious enough, it doesn't matter distance or
Yeah.
if they're in the water or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the moose, you're gonna get the moose. I mean, pretty much, in my mind, with a gun.
Well, that's us, and that's me
You know.
also. Like, yeah, do something dumb, and I'll spend all week packing it out.
Yeah.
For success. That's why there is big ones
Yeah.
at the fringes, away from the trails. These all, yeah, I saw. You hear stories. Yeah, I saw a big moose, but it was 3 miles away from the trail.
Right.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like 4 days of work, dude. It's all good. It's like,
Yeah.
No, I got a double knee replacement and broke hip. Yeah, dude. Dream on. So, how did you get back into? You saw the struggle.
Yeah, it was just, I sitting down, that realization that the whole point of hunting is that challenge. I don't need to shoot a moose to survive. It'd be different if I literally was surviving off the land. I would use a firearm, absolutely, because I need that moose to survive.
And that's still true to this day. I mean, you have good jobs. We all have good enough jobs where we could buy meat, I like to shoot traditional archery, and I like to but at the end of the day, we still would like to get a moose, right? Like that's for the family.
It is, but it's not. Your life doesn't depend on it, and that was the whole thing that got me into the traditional archery. Was just the challenge. The pitting yourself against it, because one, the job is trying to find a moose, and we'll just stick with moose right now. And then, okay, that's part one. Part two is closing the distance. Pretty tough to do when to get into bow range, especially a primitive bow range.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, so the hunt really begins when the rifle hunt ends.
Correct. It's like, all right, now you're really doing something. You're finding the moose, stalking the moose, having the practice with the bow. Just the beauty of being one with, the cedar shaft, the Osage bow, the turkey feathers, calling the moose in, being more stealthy. I mean, there's just something magical about that when you really do connect, and the stars have to align. I mean, everything's got to be in your favor, not just the wind, but the moose has got to be in the right part of the rut to call it in. You've got to be in the right spot. I've been in numerous times where I've called bulls in, but then they've stopped in front of a spruce tree, and I don't have a shot. But they're 12 yards away, but I don't have a shot. With a gun, you could blow right through it. Where with the tradbow or any kind of bow, really, you're not going to blow right through it. So that was the whole thing, is that when you really do connect finally, that feeling of success, is overwhelming. And that's what drew me to it. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do archery, what kind of archery do I want to do? And that's kind of what drew me to the Strunk bow. I read, all the traditional archer Bible books. There's a series of 3 of them. And Strunk had his own chapter in there in those books. And so that's what I want. I want an Indian bow. If I'm going to do it, let's do it.
Indian bow.
I'm going to make my own arrows, whittle my own, nocks, and get the turkey feathers, split them, and, grind them down, and gray barred turkey feathers, made my own broadheads, and then shot that Strunk bow, that all wood bow with no fiberglass at all. It was just a simple stick and string, truly, so it was fun.
I still have it. It was throughout high school, coming over. We're just friends watching movies. Like, let's come and go teach you how to make an arrow. Here's an Osage bow. I'm going over there. I'm like, I found that I was enjoying a lot more time with Vince than I was with Jordan. Sitting, watching America's Got Talent or like American Idol. I'm like, what are we doing? Let's go make arrows. Let's go fling some arrows in the garage. I'm sorry, there's a couple holes from, you see a target over here, there's a couple holes. I own those. Like, I did it. It was me, shooting in the garage in the middle of winter.
That was fun. Still is.
Still is. That's why,
Got the bows today. We zinged some arrows today.
I'm not pasting it out.
Right.
I'm over here 5 yards. I built the confidence. But back then, even though you talk about close and distance, even back then, people are like, oh, the elk hunting's changed, the deer hunting, the moose hunting has changed. Back then, it's like, oh, the good old days, right? But even the good old days, and like this year, right?
Yeah.
We went to the Yukon.
Yeah.
Right. We all drew tags. We got dialed. We had this big plan. And we went there, and it was. I mean, how many years have we been going after moose together?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, Jordan holds onto the rifle. I'll hold the camera and a pistol. We're gonna call them in, and it's all about trying to get you another moose, right?
Yeah.
And the given time seems like there's more pressure, and the moose are wising up a little bit, especially the bigger bulls. They're like, yeah, screw all this. This is some dickweed stuff. I'm gonna come down off the mountains. No bugs. The women are ready, and there's no hunters there because they can't hurt me.
Right.
And they've really got to slip up locally to get a bow shot.
Yeah.
With the rifle is different.
Yeah. Again, no matter then or now, everything has to align.
Absolutely.
To get a trad bow shot, it's never a gimme, and if you're not really hunting in the rut per se, it's really got to align for you. It's more luck than anything else. Where if you're in the rut and you're in a good area, then yes, you've got a pretty good advantage. But that's not a slam dunk. They might get to that wolf distance that you call them in across a swamp. They get to that 50 yards, and they hole up.
How many times has that happened?
Many.
With
too
us.
many. Too many times. And you're like, oh, could have had that bull with a gun 1,000 times, chip shot, right? And then they hang up, and you're like, well, shoot, I just couldn't quite get that extra 15 yards. As I need them to come another 15 yards, and I'm out of cover. And then you try to push it, and they're like, they turn and they're gone, just like that.
My mind is racing through all the encounters that we've had. Boom,
yes.
boom, 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 boom. He's walking away. Vince, what do you want me to do? Dump him. 2 days left. I'm like, I feel guilty, but I'm also like, yes, I got one. We got one. And it's like, well, yeah, we got one, but we haven't been able to call him back in, or it's just all these different encounters where it has ended with them being like, all right. But with a compound bow, 50, 60, 70 yards, you're in the game. You're going to be able to make a shot.
I mean, they're amazing devices. You'll never hear me, not say that.
Crossbow,
but it's just not for me.
Rifle, it's all game over. But hunt with a strunk bow or trad bow. And some guys, like now, there might be, I've seen several on the internet that people are making really good shots with trad bows, recurves, which, that's cool. But a moose, you smack that thing in the shoulder blade. Like I hit one in the shoulder blade one time, 20 yards.
And it stops.
It stopped, and it literally, it flexed its muscles. Like, what was that? Hit it in the bone. It snapped that arrow, and that arrow flew across the swamp.
Right.
Just the broadhead was stuck in his shoulder blade. I'm like, oh, that wasn't a good spot.
And that's actually why I stopped hunting with the all-wood bow, is because I called in a bull that was on the Koyukuk, off the Yukon. And he was, 18 yards away with that strunk bow, and I made an awesome shot, and it hit a rib. And that broadhead hit a rib, and it stopped right there, and it walked away. My hunting partner says, what do you want me to do? And I said, yeah, go ahead, shoot it, because we're going to lose that bull. So he shot it with his rifle. It was like, okay, this is cool. Maybe black bears, maybe caribou, a moose. No, that's the wrong thing, the wrong weapon, because it just didn't have enough cast to really punch through a rib. I don't think it ever would have. It could be 5 yards away and it wouldn't have gone through. That broadhead oriented, it went horizontal, which is even worse than being a vertical. If it's a 2-blade broadhead, I might have been able to get in there 8-10 inches. But because the impact was on the horizontal plane with that rib, it literally, it stuck in, and the point was maybe a 1/2 inch into his lung, lining. And it was at that point where I said, no, I'm going to go ahead and do a modern day longbow or recurve with reflex design, deflex reflex with fiberglass in order to get a lot more cast out of the bow, So then I still love shooting the self bows. They're fun, but the more the modern day bow is more ethical on a moose. Let's put it that way.
But that being said, all right.
Yep.
You killed some moose with that bow.
I have, yes.
Killed some moose with that bow.
Yep.
So we did the Yukon Hunt this year, and like there was a moment where I'm like, kind of feel bad because I want to spend time with Vince. My 2 best friends are there. My 3 best friends are there.
Yeah.
And there was a tag along. And I'm like, hey, I'll take the tag along because I feel like sometimes I go, Vince, like, I just can't see it. You know how some fans at the end of a game, they're like, I got to leave. I'm going to leave because there's going to be a comeback. And if I'm here, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And like, and after all, like these encounters, going over these encounters, like, I love spending time with Vince. I'm like, well, maybe, just maybe, they're going to go to the swamp. It's going to happen for them tonight. I send them to the juicy swamp where we walked in, like, something's going to happen. This swamp is just obliterated with big bull sign. Everything's thrashed. It's thrashed. Like there's multiple trophy bulls in here, or legal bulls, right?
Yep.
And they go up, they drop us off. We walk in, I'm sitting there, we're talking. I'm doing just doing bull grunts, raking a little bit. We're sitting there getting chewed on by bugs, cut our visors up, and then we hear something just stood up. Did you hear that? Yeah. We heard thrashing. I'm like, and it started coming. I'm like, oh, he is coming. Locked in and walked directly to us down to like 18 yards. Boom, boom, boom with a rifle. Hit him. He couldn't see him in the tall grass, right? And finally stood up.
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom. And we had InReaches, and it was like, bull down. We'll see you guys at dark. They're like, nothing's done, because they just went up half a mile or so to the other juicy swamp. And it was like, I almost stopped. Fate has a funny way of working out. I almost stopped. Like, I grabbed Brian because Brian and Vince were together, and I almost I didn't want to try to control it too much. But at the same time, I grabbed Brian, and I looked at him, I'm like, I was getting ready to say, you guys get out and go here. I looked at him, I'm like, good luck, man.
Yep.
Fist bump, and then we got out. And it was like, if I would have sent them there, that would have happened, or maybe it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, you just never know.
You never know. So,
yeah. They do.
Oh, that was a nice bull, too.
It was. Beautiful bull. 5x5, palmated brows.
5x6.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was just went brow tines to palm.
Beautiful bull. Not that wide, but man, he was beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I want to shoot a bull. I care less about those.
Yeah.
A 60-inch or 2x2 or 2x3.
Yeah.
That one was just...
I'll take one of those bulls all day long. He was 59, 5x6, palmated brow, and beautiful mane palms too. Nice wide,
symmetrical.
Beautiful. Oh, it was beautiful bull. Absolutely.
So this was my actual first year hunting the Yukon. I've been on the Yukon with Jeppos before, but hunting the Yukon.
Yeah.
I've floated. Yeah. I've flown to the drop camps. I've jet boated outside of hunting season for a different show.
Yeah.
But this is the first time actually hunting with jet boats. Mm-hmm. And I call Vince. Vince is the sensei. So this was his
14th year, yeah.
So he's been up there 14 years. So he was doing it before all of a sudden it was open, open tag, registration, open registration, open draw. So now he's hunting all these spots where he's been in the juice, and he's taking people to the juice, and he's been there and had like all these different adventures, which is like, Joe MacGyver over here. So we're like, all right, what are we doing? He's like, well, all right, boys, here we go. The huddle up, calm, he's like he's the Belichick over here, and the Brady. Like, all right, here we go. So what do we do? Okay, so we're going up. We get out there. We go do this hunt. Like, all right. So, and the whole time we're like, all right, Vince. All right, boys. So we're going to Ruby. There's a girl in Ruby. You go to the Yukon to be an Alaskan.
That's right.
But we got to. We can't talk about that because you got to go on the Yukon. We can't spoil that. And we're not going to spoil that for you, but there's somebody in Ruby that we'll introduce you to if you make it to Ruby.
Yes.
There's a little treat down there.
There's a little treat. Ruby.
Ruby. So there's a couple things you got to do.
In order to be a sourdough. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know the story about being a sourdough, right? You got to pee in the Yukon. You got to shoot a bear. And you got to make love to Ruby and Ruby in order to be a true sourdough. But what happens down there stays down there, okay?
Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. I don't want to tell you
that's it.
What happened before, after, or during, but
somebody on the trip dresses up as Ruby or what?
We'll leave it there.
Yeah, we'll just that's enough said.
So you've been talking about doing a Yukon hunt. Like, oh, well, where do I go? I'm like, well, you see this, river that flows a few thousand miles and from here to here, and there's spots here, spots there, spots there. I can't tell you exactly where to go. I've been all around. Vince has been around, and you hunt it the same way. You swamp lord, and him and I are the same way.
Yeah.
It's like you go to a swamp, you don't get a response. You spend 30 minutes.
Time to move.
Even though it's like, well, we left and one could have came. You know, and then another group will come in and shoot 450 to 60-inch bulls in the same swamp. It's like, okay.
Cool. Do you feel, Vince, like that's the more productive way, or is that your personality and your style is?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on what day it is, in the season. So, I mean, if you're hunting the early season
and weather,
I mean, you're road hunting. You've got to put on some miles. I mean, if you want to hunt a swamp every day for your 10-day hunt, yes, that is a technique.
But
I'm not going to do that myself in the early hunt from the 1st to the 15th, or like, let's say from the 1st to the 12th. Okay, then you hit that magical and it starts happening, and usually in a Yukon-ish area on the 12th forward, getting better with each day. And the weather kind of plays into it, but mainly the dates.
And it's not just a random swamp, because you can go and there's dry zones. You have to find.
You got to find where they're at.
Okay,
absolutely.
Here. And then you can sit there.
Yep.
But calling them early season not the most effective.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really going to call them in the early season, so you've got to find where they're hanging out. So if you go to a swamp and you give it a good shot, and you do calling, you do all the things that you want to do, the scraping, the cow calls, in the early season. Before you leave, throw a few bull grunts in there. And if you don't get a response, guess what? You're not going to get a response. It's time to move. So you go, you look at your maps, you go a half mile one way or the other, you go on the left side, right side of the river to an opening, hop in there. And then basically what you're doing is kind of jump shooting them in a way. You're locating
in the first 15 days.
In the first, correct.
This is new. Like you didn't have OnX doing this. You're like, you're on a ladder in a boat looking into
right, and you're really looking at your topo, studying where am I, and keeping really good, accurate. This bend in the river, we're right here, right now. Looks like, according to the map, there's a swamp right here. So okay, let's stop here. Now with OnX, you're basically in an airplane.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You are in an airplane. It's a heck of an advantage.
And with InReaches, hey, I'm here. You're trying to be like, well, where are you guys in the river? We're here.
Right here.
We are right here. We're not communicating about game or anything. We're just like, hey.
Right. Yeah. If you want to tell each other where you're at, that's what's great about it.
Hey, we are here. It's dark. Where are you guys? We are here tonight.
Correct.
Can you make it? No, it's too shallow.
Right.
We'll see you in the morning. You know.
We're going to Siwash here. For the night.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah, the first and 15th.
So yeah, your question was, is that my style? That is my style in the beginning, and then it changes as I know the rut is occurring then I know, okay, I know this area has moose in it. There's lots of tracks, there's lots of sign, there's, a lot of brush that's been broken. They're here. There's really no need to spend a bunch of gas and waste a bunch of time. I'm going to go early in the morning, I'm going to go in the evening, I'm going to work this spot. And literally, if they're there and the rut's on, you're going to hear moose.
And if they're cowed up, it's the same thing. We were talking about this earlier. If they're cowed up, they're not going to come to the call.
No.
They're not going
to. Well, they'll call, but they're not going to come to it.
Call.
He'll give you one or two grunts, is what I've found.
Yeah.
The big bull will say, I'm here. Give you a scrape. Say, if you really are a bull, I'm not leaving. I've got my harem. Come and get me. And then you have to make a decision. Okay, am I going to do that? Am I going to potentially go in after them? And I have, and I've had success with that. And then I've also had where it didn't work out. They took off.
They go.
So it's kind of that's a crapshoot there.
Situationally.
Yeah.
And so to be clear, where I found my success as a young man, 18 to 25 years old, I was going to places in hiking areas, right, where I didn't have to compete because I didn't have the dollars, I didn't have the toys, where guys don't want to pack out moose. So I was hunting moose in the alpine, which is completely different.
It's a whole different ball game.
Different because it doesn't matter calling or anything. You can spot them, stalk them, go kill them, but you're going to break your back in half packing them out, which was like, sweet, sign me up. Now, yeah, I can do it on a given day, but I'm like, I'm good for a couple packs, but we'll get some young bucks. We'll go in there as an army. Sorry, your spot's blown up, but let's get this moose out, right? So Vince taught me how to get jiggy with it in Swamp Lord, right? And then now we go, and Vince and I are like, what do you see? He taught me, bring 3 tree climbing spikes. You can zip up, 3 tree climbing spikes.
To the branches.
Get to the branches, and you can start climbing up. Okay. Is it dangerous? Absolutely. You don't want to fall on that sumbitch. You get hurt.
Yeah.
There has been times, Vince comes over, you all right? I'm like, yeah, there were some willows here.
Remember that one time we were in that tree, and I mean, we're 30 feet in the air, and we're looking at the trunk. I'm like, have you noticed that this entire trunk's got claw marks all over it? And we're like, the black bears have been living in this tree.
Wasn't funny?
That was cool.
Sitting there, we were face to face, whispering, looking at these swamps, mega swamps. Like, oh, okay, there's some moose. Like, well, we're not gonna be able to get to them. It's dark. We're already committed to this area and climb the tree. I'm like, we can't get there by the time it's gonna be dark. So we'll come back and hunt there in the morning.
Yep.
If they're gonna be there, we're just sitting there.
We weren't the first people in this tree. We weren't the first, living thing in this tree.
Right?
Yeah. That was fun.
I've gotten so comfortable in trees now where I've climbed them. Like,
oh,
hey, Jordan, there's a moose, two bends up. I'm like, go for it. Like, okay, you coming down? I'm like, well,
just get comfortable.
Yeah. They come back around the corner. I'm locked into this tree, asleep.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. It's like, hey. I look up, look for the moose first. I'm like, was he legal? They're like, we didn't see him. I'm like, oh. Okay, it's getting dark. Let's go. I'm up in a tree, so I have been very comfortable with heights, but it's not like very smart. If you're like, the tree stand. Now I'll try to climb up, but if it's a good spot, I'll throw down a rope, bring up a tree stand. But usually we're covering so much distance, it's like you're climbing, going up. Then you got some big branches. You got to be athletic. But now, Vince taught me that, and it's like, all right, you want to come up? It's like, just tell me what you see, so I go, it's over here. Should I shoot him? Can we call him? It's really, we go back and forth. If we need a moose, you know what I mean? We usually wait to the very end. It's like, well, I'm trying to get.
The tree is an advantage, though, And
my thing is, I've been really trying to get over the last, 6-7 years, trying to get an over the shoulder, badass Vince at full draw zapping a monster moose with the camera. Like, that's my real goal. And then we get down to the last few days. I'm like, well, the real goal is to get moose in the freezer, and we've been seeing them, and he's like, dump it, So we get to that stage.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't. We're on different hunts, and it means different things. It depends. But what's cool about us, we get it out. All right, talk about this. Who are the players? What's involved? How is this going to happen? Because we see a curveball before it's coming, right? He's been doing this many times. And this year, I thought you were going to get a shot, but we went early.
Yeah, Yeah, that's the other thing. In my opinion, especially bow hunting, the Yukon in the early season is not the best place.
You can
You
catch
know.
them with their pants down
You can,
if you, and
yeah,
that's how
they're
they do
there.
it.
They're
That's how
there.
they do it, and that's how a lot of the locals do it, right?
Yeah,
They're
they
catching
just
them.
burn gas and they highway hunt, and they're finding them in the evening and the morning on the bank, and that's a productive way to hunt.
Yeah,
But
we
for
ran,
bow hunting, it's
nah,
it's not going to
we
happen.
ran into one guy, and we gave him some gas in the river. The Alaskan way. He's like dead drifting, down a creek or a slough, and like, yeah, you all right? He said, no, no. I'm like, come on over. And he paddles over, stop. Okay. What do you need? He said, well, we don't have any fuel. Do you have any fuel? I'm like, well, we kind of need our fuel. We're up here, but we've got a couple to get you maybe closer to the mouth. But I got an InReach, we're going back and forth, and give him he texts his friend to come upriver. I'll pay you back. I'll do this. I'll do that. He's going
Right.
back and forth, really appreciates it. And so, hey, I don't know if it's worth anything, but here's got a little whiskey in the boat. And he says, oh, you got whiskey. So we don't need the gas if you have whiskey. We all just started laughing, and just dying. So middle of the afternoon,
Uh,
we're waiting. We haven't even got to our hunting ground yet. We're still trying to find, we're not even hunting. It's freaking 70 degrees. We're drinking warm whiskey on the side of the river passing around. I'm like, you know what? You guys keep that. You guys how, they're like, thanks. They rip off, and we get a Facebook message like, hey, we made it back. We really appreciate it. Made friends for life.
that's cool.
But all right, one story with your strunk bow that's like always stood out in my mind. You had your shed in the back, and you have all these antlers. And I'm like, oh yeah. So tell me the stories. Told me every single story about all these different moose. And I look at them. There's 30 inchers. There's 40 inchers. There's 50 inchers. There's 60 inchers, and they're just out stacked, skull capped,
Yeah.
but not skull capped. They're like nose cap, face cap. You have a
Yeah.
custom cut
Yeah.
to hang on the shed, right? So they're
Yeah.
all looking the same. And being a young man, he's telling me these stories. We're out raking leaves or doing something, getting free labor out of the young buck, the friend, so I'm out there, listening, raking leaves, shoveling dog poop, whatever, reorganize, whatever, just to spend time with him. Say, well, if you help me, I'll give you this chunk of Osage wood. Yeah, what do you want me to do? I'm here, So, I remember that one story with you, and you brought a couple of buddies to the juice, and you finally get to the juice. This is the Indian story. They get to just a straight up moose. I don't even know what you would call it. There's moose everywhere. They're moaning. They're mounting. They're getting jiggy with it. At all sizes of moose, big bulls, little bulls, cows, calves. Like yearlings. It's just magic. That's what I remember. I'm not trying to make this my own, but it was incredible. So you went up. This is Yukon Hunt.
Yes. Kayukuk. Yep.
Kayukuk before it was permit, before it was draw.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting one because we had gotten on this dead slough all the way to the very end of it, and it was hard to get to because it was shallow. But we find this opening that is the promised land. I mean, you hop up over the edge, you go into this beautiful moose hollow, and there's a cow and a calf in it. And I'm like, this looks like where moose live. We're like, man, this is going to be epic. So we wait, we do some calling, and then that 20 minutes before dark, all of a sudden, we're convinced now it's just this cow and this calf that's in this opening. And there aren't any moose in this epic spot. Then all of a sudden, one bull comes out.
How many hunters?
0.
No, you and...
Oh, it was just, at that time, it was just me and one other.
Okay.
Right? And so 2 bulls come out. Actually, it ended up being like 20 moose come out into this hollow. Just cows, calves, young bulls, satellite bulls. And then a pretty nice low 60-inch bull comes out, and then everybody stops, and all the moose stop, and they all turn and they all look, and around this corner comes the man, and he just starts walk, with that walk, he's just swaying, and then literally everyone's checking him out. So he goes up to that other lower 60-inch bull. He's a mid 60 to almost 70-inch bull, and they just kind of they start fighting a little bit. So I tell my partner, like, hey, the wind's good. I'm gonna sneak up, and I'm gonna with the strunk bow, and I'm gonna see if I can put a cedar shaft in this thing. They're occupied. All the other moose are looking, and I don't get 10 yards.
Well, and this is, you're talking to him. He's got enough wherewithal to say, Vince, I respect you. This giant moose just comes out with a rifle. This is game over.
Oh, yeah.
But you still got it out of him. Hey,
right.
I'm going to go. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Go for it, Vince.
Yep. So that only lasted for about a millisecond, that beautiful altruistic, mindset. Because all of a sudden I had
Shark eyes, he just
375 round going over me, and he dumps this big ball.
He just wanted you out of the way.
Exactly. You're talking. Just go ahead, leave.
Move over.
Why don't you go around this way? Just hear us say.
I mean, and I had just cover. I had the wind. I had
perfect.
Everything. I mean, yeah, it's so frustrating. So anyway, so moose down. And I'm like, well, so they scatter. These moose, it was mayhem. This beautiful, amazing moose hollow turned into their eyes bugged out, scared for their lives, and they just take off into the woods.
Which with 20, 30 animals running around in that hollow.
It was crazy. It was basically a stampede, And so I'm a little bit upset, and I'm like, okay, well, let's start on your moose.
Rightfully so.
Let's go. So we go, bing, bang, boom, pull out the knives, and we start doing our business, blah, blah, blah. And that night, it turned so pitch black, and the stars were not out. It started snowing on us, and we barely could find our way out of this slough. We were in a little inflatable Achilles raft away from camp, probably 5-6 miles away from camp. And we kept running into the bank thinking that we were on the slough, but running into trees and running into the bank, not really even knowing if we were going up or downstream because we couldn't see. It was pure luck that we made it back to camp that night, So the next morning, the other two guys in camp say, well, we'll come and help you pack the moose out, right? So we go into the hollow. So all we did was gut that one moose and put a stick into it, opened up its chest cavity and let it cool down. We go in there the next day, 4 of us, and there's that same cow and calf in the little lake in the middle of this hollow. So we just start calling. All of a sudden, a bull comes out. That other 60-inch bull comes out. A couple other bulls come out. Not as many as the night before, but they didn't leave. And I'm like, okay, now the wind's not right. I know that I don't really have a chance to put a sneak on that 60-inch bull. But I say, I'm going to try and put a sneak on that bull. I know you trigger-happy gun hunters. Can you
give me a chance?
Give me one chance. We're bringing you into our spot.
I found the juice.
I found the spot.
Let me get my
crack. My other buddy, he's already got his. He didn't give me a chance. You guys are just here to help pack. Let me give it a shot. So I try to play the wind, and I get to where I think is the best, and I'm about halfway there, and I know that any second that bull's going to get my wind, and he does. So he takes off. Boom. The other guy shoots that bull with his gun. So now this 39-inch bull comes sprinting, stampeding, And he's a full dead sprint, basically coming right at me. He's 5 yards away, running towards them. Okay. And I'm like, well, now or never. I already got an arrow knocked. And I just swing, draw, and on the fly, I let an arrow loose, and that thing buried to the fletch and stuck out the other side. And he runs about 30 yards, flips over completely, head over tea kettle, and legs, all 4 legs in the air. And the 4 of them are like, they didn't even see me. They're worried about their 60-inch ball. And I just swing, draw, let this arrow go. And right in front of them, 15 yards in front of them, this little bull dies right in front of them in about 30 seconds. You know, they couldn't believe it, you know. So to finish that crazy story up, the other guy didn't. So there was only one gun in the guy who shot, because his brother had already killed one. My hunting partner had already killed his bull. So he only had his rifle. So he empties rounds, all 4 rounds with his high-powered rifle into this bull, and it doesn't die. It walks away around the corner. So I don't know if you remember this, the end of this story is I have to walk up to it with my bow and take this thing out of its misery.
Because they
didn't have any ammo. So I'm there. It's basically dead on its hoofs. I'm feeling sorry for it. So I shoot, and it puts him down. You know, so I actually put that moose down with a cedar shaft, and he had 4 rounds into it.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, that was a bummer, definitely. But he recovered the bull, you know, which was great. You know, but
a lot of people don't know about you know, picking the right caliber and bullet placement. Same thing with arrows, same thing with arrow tuning. You're hitting a rib, even the arrow coming in sideways, you didn't bare shaft tune it. You know, like, certain things that go into every, like,
there is.
And that's the, you know, the fate thing. You can't push a rope. Like, certain things happened.
Yep.
And certain things are perfect, other things don't.
I thought it was kind of fitting, though, that you know, the projectile that put the moose down was the cedar shaft. You know,
cedar shaft. Yeah. I've hunted early season archery before, and with the advancement of the compound bow, some guys are taking longer pokes, right? And same thing happened, right? I didn't put him down, but I ended up bringing the guys an arrow up high up on a mountain, where I watched him. You know, he was trying to whittle a stick, because once you shoot one of those, usually you're not finding your arrow, right?
Yeah.
Especially even tradbow. You know, like usually in Alaska, you shoot one in the tundra, the forest, it eats it, right? It's gone. But same thing happens. You see somebody runs out of arrows, somebody runs out of bullets, you know, I just brought a fistful of bullets, and they shoot them, and they hit them maybe marginally good, 1 lung or something like that, and then they walk off. And people, you know, some people are like,
and they can. And they do.
And bears, caribou, sheep, you name it. You know, same thing with deer, lower 48, elk. Like, I hit them perfect. Well, their lungs were deflated. They were getting ready to take a breath in, and you shot right through the no man's land. There's all sorts of things that happen. But in Alaska, it's like, man, I'm a little bit OCD about it. Like, every single pocket has multiple bullets. People are like, man, you brought a whole box? I'm like, yeah, I got another box at camp, buddy. You got no idea what's going to happen. Like, what if this rifle gets knocked? What if, you know?
It's interesting you say that. On another Koyukuk hunt, I went with a workmate of mine, and he was a Marine. And, you know, he kept joking about 1 shot, 1 kill. Right.
This is a guy that never let his rifle out.
No, that's a different guy. But
another Koyukuk. These stories are endless. Brother.
So what's funny about this story is, so here the Marine, 1 shot, 1 kill. He hunts 1 swamp. That was his technique. They went to the same swamp every day, and then finally a moose showed up, and he shot it on the other side of the swamp.
How many days?
They hunted that for 8 days without seeing a thing. And yeah, dedication to a spot,
Oh,
right? Early
man.
season. And
One
on that
came, though,
8th
8
day, he shot a nice high 50-inch bull, beautiful bull. But he had 4 rounds and wounded it and didn't have any other bullets. He had to go back to camp. So he left the spot, got down with their inflatable, 5 miles back to camp, 5 miles back up, then up the slough, then across the swamp in order to actually kill this moose.
And he just took the shots, went and laid down.
Correct.
And then, I mean,
Right.
sometimes.
Long shot, 400-yard shots.
Yep.
And they, they knew the moose was down, but not dead.
And sometimes they lay down to that stuff, and you could be out there for a week and not find them and be
Oh,
doing
that's a
circles.
fact.
And I know
You could be 20 yards from them and not see them.
that head tall grass. I mean,
Yes.
like, and we've talked about this.
Yes.
Like fate has a funny way of working out.
Yep.
Even with moose that we killed out a couple years ago, I'm like,
Yep.
what happened? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I thought maybe I hit it, and maybe I don't know.
I shot once, and I went over there, and there's a hoof,
Right.
after a 45-minute track job in a head-high swamp with no blood. And I'm just like, I think this is where he went.
Yep.
And, Sixth Sense took over or whatever. I was just very lucky. But I've been on different hunts with Pickle and Crixus, and I don't know where this thing is, man. I mean, like, I saw it go down.
Right.
They go one way and pull me one way. I'm like, I think it's over here. We go over and it stands right up.
Right.
And like we wouldn't have found that bull. That was not where it was supposed to be.
Yep.
And that goes with anything. I've heard it all sheep, with bears especially.
Yeah.
And hunts where there's not very much foliage. I mean, think about the black-tailed deer hunt that we just went on.
Yeah.
That's
prime example.
Just fate has a funny way of working out.
Yeah.
Jordan found the deer. Like, where the small deer in the pucker brush? You ain't gonna find it.
Yeah. That was
So it's like people
minor miracle.
One shot, one kill. I hit it good and it's walking off. It's like, no. In Alaska, if you can get cedar in its vitals, if you can get lead in its vitals, what you need to shoot it until it goes down.
Well, the point of that story, though, is what you said is having, your pockets. If that's your weapon of choice, don't just go with 4 rounds.
Stack your quiver full.
You better, because of that example right there.
Well, you've got like a 2-arrow quiver in your bow.
Right.
We're usually together, and he's gonna have a gun.
Yeah.
Which you're very also confident, and
right.
You know your ability, and you're not going to take anything that's unethical whatsoever.
Right. Yep.
So.
I mean, with the bow that I'm shooting, it's 25 yards and closer. If it's 30 yards, I could probably hit it, but I'm not going to take that shot.
Right.
And so that's why I've got 2 arrows.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to let it fly unless I know I'm going to hit the mark. And the thing is, with archery, very rarely will you get more than 2 arrows. A shot at an animal.
Yes.
You might hit it and might stop, turn, look at you, and then maybe let another arrow go. But to think that you're going to shoot 4 or 5 arrows at an animal, that's dream world.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
But that being said, in camp, you'll bring a tube full.
Oh yeah. I've got lots of arrows in camp, but when I'm out, fighting willows and
losing arrows. And,
I'm not going to have 8 arrows with me.
Yeah, I feel
on my body. Let's put it that way.
Some of the spots that I've been archery hunting, I'm like, okay, I had 6 arrows. There's 5 left. I'm like, all right, dude, I'm sorry if anybody falls into one of my arrows.
Right.
The brush grabs them, like
exactly. Just trying to sneak through.
And there's an arrow sticking out. I'm like, what if I would have sat down?
Yeah.
I mean, you can put a rubber band, certain things around them, but like,
right.
Eventually, those things going through Alaska, like it can pull the best of the arrow guards out. Rubber bands,
Yeah.
You bring a stack of them, it's going to shred them. But I'm also a bull in a china shop, so some people might hear it and be like, this guy's leaving arrows around. I'm like, well, call it a relic. Hopefully you don't get stuck by it. I'm sorry, okay?
Yeah.
People walking through the woods and arrows cut their pants or cut their legs.
I've actually I've had some moments where, like hunting Oregon, eagle caps with a tradbow. I was out there. And I sat down in the spot. We knew the elk were coming out. Took us 3 days to figure, okay, how are we gonna do? And finally, like, okay, they're gonna come out right here. And I sat down. I was like, but they on any given night they might come out here. Like, I sat down. And I'm like, I look down. There's an arrow, bent arrow. I almost sat on a broadhead. Yep, aluminum. Aluminum. And then like I look at it, there's no plastic left on it. It's just been chewed down by critters or whatever. And broadhead's missing, a blade. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I put it in my quiver, and I'm sitting there. I'm like,
There's a story behind that for
and
sure.
I'm thinking, yeah, this is fate. I'm gonna sit right here. And I was planning on going to the other spot, on the other side where they were coming out. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, yeah, thank you. This is gonna happen. I'm feeling good. That night they came out the other spot, like,
Of course.
yeah, of course they did, like, oh, cool. I almost got like, tetanitis or whatever it is, and a broadhead to the ass cheek. Like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. And I didn't get an elk, and I ate elk soup that trip, and rightfully so, but I got a cool arrow out of it,
This thing just beeped at me low battery, so I don't know how much longer that means, but
Yeah, this is, I feel like we could
just
continue.
barely scratched the surface
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
I think like Vince should just be like designated co-host whenever we get him in.
Here, Vince, I'm fired.
Yeah, somebody else to call. Like, where did you say? What did you do? Vince is a fact checker of like,
Well, what's interesting about stories like that is that each hunt or each animal is a story. That's a podcast. I mean,
even encounters.
Encounters.
I can't
Yeah, an encounter. I mean, we hunted this one bull, just to kind of wrap it up. This one antlered bull on the Yukon.
Harvard bull.
The Harvard bull, because he kept taking us to school. It was a big bull, but he only had one, right? And that bull ended up being 38 inches from center line out. So tell me what you think that bull would have been.
Close to 80.
That's a monster bull, right?
Oh, yeah.
That bull, we called that bull in about 6 different times, and I wanted to get it with my bow, right? And every time we reset up differently, thinking, okay, he's schooled us so many times. That's why we called him the Harvard Bull. He took us to school, like, okay, now we've got it right. We got the wind. He came in like this before, so we're going to set it up this way. And then all of a sudden you get set up and he double crosses you and takes you to school one more time, but did get that bull, my partner did with his gun, but we finally took him to school, but
Dump 'em.
You learned the lesson of lead.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you got? What do you got for us, mister? What have you taken?
I think that there's just so much to absorb from Vince. Like I feel like I'm pretty adventurous, like moving up here and doing things.
And you are.
But I don't know if I'm at Vince status yet. Right. That's a whole other level.
I'll be chasing that in the rest of my life for sure.
I'm very happy that you told us all those stories and that you came on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to get Vince on. Like, this has been one of the most influential people, arguably the most influential people in my life. Like, he is the father I never had. He's the man that I still look up to, and we have like a lot of great times together.
Yeah.
And it's just beginning. Like, I can't even look him in the eye. I might tear up right now.
Yeah, right.
Like, but all that emotional stuff aside, which I do love you. I do.
Yes. Likewise.
We have Alaska and coming up in Alaska and all the stories. And, you got a lot of guys who think they're bad boys and they've been there and done that. And then people who have, and you're like, dude, you barely got away from the truck. There's, and that's how I feel, where I'm like,
yeah,
it's not necessarily how deep you go or how hardcore you go, but there's stories of people who are doing it, exploring, adventuring across the state. These average guys that say average, doing above average things, and on a different scale. There's people in the lower 48, and I've been to Oregon, I've been to Colorado, I've been around. There's places that I've had my lesson taught to me, right? Like there's people, and it's not just Alaska. right
No,
there.
it's not just Alaska.
There is so many people across the lower
Yeah.
48 that are built of just different, just
Adventure. It's about the adventure.
it's about the adventure, and so it's endless in Alaska. It's endless
Yeah.
in other places across the lower 48, across the
Yeah.
world for that matter.
Yeah.
And getting some of these stories about people who are not necessarily there for the big antlers and the ego stroke. It's like,
Yeah.
I need to know who I am. I'm just doing this to see what I'm made of, man. Where's my baseline this year? And
Yep.
Vince's baseline, like, good lord.
Impressive.
He's beyond above average. So
Above average.
yeah,
But you better watch out because I might steal your mentor.
right. He'll teach you. He'll learn you something. What are you doing
Yeah.
tomorrow?
Right.
You got a snow machine? You got a log truck? He's getting you
Yeah.
up to go out
There's
and go
yeah.
rip the mountains.
Do you?
No.
Oh.
Let's
Let's go.
Next year. Next year we're buying a snow machine. That's on the book.
Avalanche Beacon Pro.
Must have toy for Alaska.
Oh yeah, we've learned that for sure.
Yep.
Right. So well, I guess I got to go home and
Be a dad.
be a father here.
Yeah.
I had a great time drinking these Tecates, which is my concluder is other than there's a lot of unsung heroes, a lot of badasses across the United States and the world and beyond. But my concluder is Tecate. Having these in the boat. Cheers. Having these in the boat.
You betcha.
Gentlemen, that kills a moose.
That's
for sure.
True story.
Good omen. Thank you very much, Vince.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it.
Well, it was fun.
All right. Until next time, this is ALASKAST with Vince Pokryfki. We're still learning. You know, the moment you say you don't have anything to learn, that's when you start going downhill. And the rest of my life, I'm gonna be learning from everybody I can, including
And vice versa. There's no doubt.
men like
Yep.
Vince. So the prize dives are only gonna be prized so long. I gotta learn a
On
few
the
things
quads
here.
God gave you.
That's right. All right, we're gonna get some mechanical advantage. We're gonna learn how to pack out some moose. We're gonna learn how to make this easier. We're gonna learn from the best, and we're gonna learn some tips from the bad boys in Alaska. We're gonna learn some stories. So this is the ALASKAST, and really, as we all know, you only need just one more cast.
That's right. One more cast.
One more cast.
One more bend.
One more bend.
What's around the next corner? One more corner.
One more summit. Let's go. Up and over.
Up
and over.
and
I didn't even
over.
get into up and over.
No, not yet. We'll do that.
Another night.